Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm DJ. Let's talk books. So I do want to start this video off by saying happy Thanksgiving, and I hope that everyone enjoyed their Thanksgiving holiday over the last weekend. I had an awesome time. My birthday was actually this past Monday, and if you guys are shopaholics like me, I've spent way too much money. That Black Friday and Cyber Monday vibe, let's not even talk about it because... So I did take last week off and I didn't post any videos because I was just like, it's time to enjoy family, friends, and all that stuff. I did buy books, which is unfortunate because I need to stop buying books. I have way too many books, but I did buy books and I will talk about those books in this video. But I'm also going to talk about books that I've read that I was supposed to review last week. So here we are. And books that I'm currently reading and books that I've purchased that I plan to read in the future. So let's get into the books. So the first book that I want to talk about in this video is The Other Black Girl. Yeah. I spoke about this book in a few of my other videos as I was like planning to read it and as I was currently reading it. And now that I've finished it, I'm like, yeah, we get to talk about this craziness because so many people had so many mixed reviews and mixed emotions, mixed feelings, and I wanted to be a part of that conversation. Now I feel like I can be a part of that conversation because I too have mixed feelings. So let me just first say that I actually did watch the show on Hulu and I loved the show way more than I loved the book. That's sad because, you know, the book was kind of good to me for the first like 3 quarters, but when I got to the end, I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. This is it? Okay. So, yeah, but I love the show more than I like the book. The book just didn't do it for me at the end, but let's talk about what I did like. So the book starts off with the character Nella, and she's a black girl working for a publishing company by the name of Wagner Books. And most of the people that work there are white people. I think Nella is actually the only black girl that has worked at this company at this current time, but before her, there was somebody really popular there that was black, and this person just... she's not there anymore. So Nella's there and she's been there for like a few years and she's really trying to figure out where she stands with this company and she's trying to figure out what her next moves are with this company. So she's just doing her thing, kind of ignoring all of the microaggressions that, you know, may come about in the corporate world, especially when you are the only minority at this company. So she's dealing with like microaggressions. She's dealing with people trying to like connect with her being black, but just being offensive and being ignorant and just ruining everything for her, right? So one day comes this new black girl named Hazel, and Hazel's working there. She's really kind of like schmoozing it up with everybody. She's making friends, and she's just this breath of fresh air to the company, and everyone is just like, oh my God, Hazel, 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 which is strange, but that's just the way it is, especially when you are in a place where there are like nothing but white people and something new and exotic comes along and they're all just like, wow. That happens. So let's just move on with that. So it seems as though Nella and Hazel are kind of like really hitting it off and everything is working out great for them. They're like building this new like black girl work friend relationship and it's all kind of cool until one day there's like this meeting and Hazel kind of like backtracks on everything that she said in like a really important time where she could have just been like supporting the other black girl. She kind of like backtracks on everything and says something totally contradictory to what she was saying to Nella and then puts Nella on the spot to where she has to be like true to herself and this shit kind of hits the fan at work. Once that situation happens, Nella is in this place where she's just like, can I trust this girl? But like, why wouldn't I be able to trust this girl? And like, why would she do something strange like that? So she's already a little like, what's going on? Meanwhile, she starts getting these notes at work that are just like, hey, leave Wagner. Don't stay here. Get out before it's too late. And she's trying to figure out who's sending me these notes and why would they be sending me these notes? So a whole bunch of things transpire. And to make a long story short, because I feel like if you really want to know, you should read the book. I feel that Nella just didn't really want to come to terms with the fact that like things were getting very strange between her and her coworkers, her with these notes, and like things were just getting very like weird. And she really had a lot of opportunity to kind of like get another job. If you are working in a place where people just don't understand you and there's always like ignorant comments, there's like these weird microaggressions, you feel like there may be some hints of racism, even if the people don't understand it, sometimes it's not even worth it to stay around and just be like, let me teach you guys, let me just say something. Sometimes it's worth it to just leave. But she doesn't leave. She stays there and she goes through all of this weird shit at work. There's like this weird secret society that is trying to get her to understand that like Hazel isn't who she says she is. Long story short, Hazel is pretty much the other black girl, and there is like this community of other black girls that feel like we don't have to like let everything that has to do with like racism, oppression, and like systemic depletion and all of that, we don't have to let those things stop us from being happy and going after what we want. And if we have to play the coon to get what we want, then we should, because we won't get it any other way. The crazy thing about it is many people think that way. And of course, it would be very easy to think that way, to just be like, you know, I'm just going to like go with the flow. And if you can't beat them, join them, so that I can at least experience some type of happiness in life and some type of achievement. But a lot of us feel like, fuck that. Hell no. Not just gonna let any type of like inappropriateness, any racism, any of those foolery things, we're not gonna let it slip by. We're just gonna make sure that things are the way that they should be. We fight for equality, and that's just the way it is. You know, I mean, that's just the way it is. Hazel is one of those people. She's like, I'm not doing that. I want to be happy, and I'm just going to do whatever I can to be happy, even if that means doing the jig, being a coon. Doing the jig, being a coon. And that's what Hazel's doing. And this society that they are a part of, they pretty much get other girls to become the other black girl-esque. They use this hair gel that like puts them in a trance, and they forget about all of the bullshit and racism and oppression and systemic racism and all those other things, so that they can just live their lives and be happy. And they kind of just like acclimate to life as coons. So that's crazy, right? I like how Nella stayed aware of things that were going on around her. She did notice how everything was weird. She noticed how Hazel was doing weird things, trying to like play her mad weird, mad crazy. Malika was on her side like, girl, I see what's going on. Let's figure it out. Let's try to see what's going on. Even her boyfriend was just like, what's up? Things seem weird, and like, tell me about it. Let me help you. What I don't like is that Nella just didn't really like take all the hints and just get out of harm's way before it was too late. And it was like too late for her. Even the people that were trying to help her were like fucking up. The difference between the book and the show, her boss, Vera, in the book was just very like, hey, do what I say. If I tell you not to speak on the racism that this author is like projecting in their book, just don't do it, because we need the money. So like, just don't say anything. That's it. But like in the show, she was very like, listen, let me explain it to you. This is how it works. You know, she was more like trying to give Nella advice and explain things to her so that she could really understand why we're doing these things that we're doing at this corporation, instead of just being like, you know, that bitch boss who's like, shut up, do what I say. Like, it was just two different situations where like in the show, it seemed like so many people were really, really trying to help Nella, and they gave her everything that she needed to like make a choice. And in the end of that show, she did make a choice that was like, good for you, Nella. I see what you're doing. I like this. But in the book, it was more like, oh, you really did get caught up. You were stupid enough to get caught up in the foolishness. Or not even stupid enough. Like, I'll say that she was just tired enough of the foolery of like society and having to fight to like prove who you are as a black woman, and just she pretty much gave up and gave in and became another black girl. And yeah, I didn't like that, and I can see why a lot of other people didn't like it. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other things going on in this book that are crazy, and the show is also its own separate crazy. So I think that most people should read it if you are interested, if you even care. The show is good. If you want to watch the show, do that. But the book, last 100 pages, I was just like, damn, you really got caught out there, girl, and became the other black girl and not just Nella. She even changed her name at the end. We hate that. But yeah, So the other black girl, it happened, and yeah. Okay, so the next book on my list is The Changeling. This is by Victor Lavelle. This book was absolutely amazing. I can't even explain how amazing it was because I don't want this video to be 5 days long. But it was really amazing, and we're going to talk about it. So I also watched the show for this book. I'm actually not finished because who has time to do anything consistently? So I did finish reading this book, and I did watch some of the show, and I do plan on finishing the show very soon, but the book and the show are like so similar that I feel like you guys will get the gist from the book review, even if you want to watch the show or you don't. The book is doing it. This book is following Apollo, who is living in New York. He is a used book collector and seller. And Apollo meets Emma, who is a librarian, and he tries to date her. He wants to go out with her. He asks her many times, and she's all like, no, 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 no. She's like, hey, the reason I've been telling you no is because I'm moving to Brazil. So she moves to Brazil, she meets a witch, and the witch is all like, you have 3 wishes. And she puts this red string around her arm, and she comes back. Her and Apollo rekindle, and they're all like, we're together. So one day, Apollo and Emma are sitting in a restaurant, and they're talking and dating and doing their thing. They're all falling in love. And she tells him about her trip to Brazil and how she got the little red string around her arm from the witch and the 3 wishes. And the witch was very like, don't cut this string off until all of the wishes have come true. Just leave this on. And Apollo, being the average man who is just like, well, I can make all your wishes come true, literally cuts the string off of her wrist, and that's the point where everything just falls to pieces, of course. And we love when things fall to pieces because how else would we enjoy the book? So things get crazy, but in a good way, honestly, because Apollo and Emma get married, then she gets pregnant, and things start getting crazy because she actually gives birth to her child on the train. They're on the A train going back uptown from dinner, and she has the baby on the train. For me, that's already what? What kind of adventure are we on at this point? Because why are we having our baby on the A train in the middle of the night? So if you're not familiar with the Changeling story, it's a very, very old story, an old telling about gremlins, goblins, and trolls or whatever, switching out human babies for their babies and trying to raise those babies, or in turn eating those children, which is crazy, but fairy tales are wild. So that's pretty much what happened. Emma and Apollo are so tired, and they're working as new parents, trying to keep their careers, and they're just really overwhelmed. So they don't realize at first that their child has been switched out for a baby troll. And Emma is the first person to realize that something's going on because someone is taking pictures of Apollo while he's out with their baby. And so she's wondering who this person is that's following him and why they're taking pictures and why he seems to be treating the baby incorrectly in her eyes. And then she realizes that this isn't her baby. So she goes to all these different people for advice on what to do. She ends up tying up Apollo, and in his eyes and everyone's eyes, she ends up killing the baby and disappearing. So now we have Apollo searching for Emma, feeling the grief of losing his first child, and just going on this adventure to figure out, what happened? What's going on? And it's a wild, wild ride. It starts off like a love story, then it turns into a thriller, and the end, which I'm not even going to reveal because whoa, the ending is wild. It literally turns into a Disney fantasy action crazy adventure movie. And whoa, I was blown away. I was literally you got to be kidding me. Anything that they could have put in this situation, they put in there, and it worked. I haven't seen the end of the show, and I'm very curious of how all of that fantasticalness is going to be implemented into the show, but whoa. But I think the bottom line to this book, this story, is it just tells the resilience, the power, the magic, and the strength and passion of a mom. When a mother realizes that, hey, this isn't my child, or something's wrong with my child, or I need to protect my child, they will do anything. And because they are creatures of nature, magic happens when a mother is after something that may be after her child, or protecting her child, or in need of embracing her child again, and she knows her child is alive somewhere. Woo! That was a lot. But I will say, go read The Changeling by Victor LaValle. It's actually a really, really good book. It's very fast-paced. It's told in New York City. I got this book, even though it's a little toe up, from Amazon. It was used from a library. So I only paid like $8 for this, which is great. But it was a really good book. And then, you know, if you read it, leave a comment. Let me know how you feel about it. If you watch the show, also leave a comment. Hopefully I'll come back in one of my videos and we'll talk about the show and how the ending was. But this book was absolutely crazy. The Changeling. So the next book on my list is Black Cake. So Black Cake was actually a really, really, really good book. I think I give this book a 4.5 star. I will say that what made me not give this book a 5 star was the fact that I just felt like it was too long. I felt like we kind of like got to the point 100 pages before the book ended. So like those last 100 pages, I was just like, didn't really need that, but we had it, and it is what it is. It was good. I enjoyed it. So Black Cake is a book following a character by the name of Coventina Lincook. She is from the island of Jamaica. I believe it's the island of Jamaica. They don't really say in the book, or maybe I just don't remember, but I don't think that they mention that it is specifically Jamaica, but they talk about how she is from the island. Most Jamaicans that I know, those are the only people that I have known to cook black cake, but I could be wrong. Leave in the comments, let me know, educate me. I love to learn. So yeah, Coventina Lincook is living on this island. Her father is Chinese, of Chinese descent, and her mother is Jamaican, or of African descent. And she's living a carefree life. She's loving it. She loves to swim. She's actually like the best swimmer on the island. Her and her friend, Bunny, they swim all out into the ocean. People actually get nervous and scared and tell them, be careful out there because you guys are not gods. So the issue comes along with Coventina's father, who is like a heavy gambler, and he kind of like gambles away all his money. He loses his businesses, and he's in debt with like one of the loan sharks on the island. Her mother ends up leaving because she's like, I'm not going to lose my entire life to this man and his gambling debt. And she leaves Coventina in the care of like the house helper or assistant maid, a woman by the name of Pearl. So, you know, the mom leaves and the shit starts to hit the fan when Coventina is like 16, 17, and men on the island are looking at her like, all right, you know, adolescent girls walking around starting to look like women, and men are just like vultures. So one of the men on the island, who is actually the loan shark that her father owes, is like, hey, interested in wedding your daughter. I want to court her, make your daughter mine, and then all of your issues go away. Coventina is over that. A lot of people are over it. They're just like, this is not right, but what can we do? Because this man is who he is. So a lot of crazy things happen, and some way, somehow at the wedding, this man that she doesn't want to marry drops dead. And I mean, he's gone. Coventina finds a way to get up out of there, and she swims away in the ocean, and people are just like, well, she must be dead because we can't find her body. She ends up in Europe. I won't tell you guys any spoilers of like, you know, how she ends up there or whatever, but she ends up in Europe. People think she's dead, and she, you know, starts a new life in Europe. Another crazy tragedy happens, and then she ends up in America. So this has all been happening in the 1960s. And now fast forward to Coventina living in America, and this is like in her 60s or like early 70s, and she's ill. She passes away, and she leaves a will and a tape that has been recorded for her 2 children. So she leaves this tape for her children, and she wants them to sit down and actually listen to the tape together because they haven't been getting along. They haven't spoken in years. And the lawyer is there to, you know, facilitate this process, and they sit down and they listen to this together. And in these tapes, she explains to them how she really isn't Eleanor Bennett and all the things that she has gone through ever since she was like made to marry this man, and how she's had to travel and take on different names and do all of these things that she didn't want to do in her life. And this is how everything became what it is. She reveals to them that they actually have another sister, which kind of like blows their minds. And this just ride of like memory and like revealing and just craziness happens. And it's like an adventure, but it's also very emotional because, you know, two people who have lost their mom, they find out all of these things, all these secrets, and it's almost like you're relearning someone that you thought you really knew. And the same goes for their father, who actually passed a few years before their mom passed. So it was all just like, whoa, we didn't even know who our parents were, but simultaneously not speaking as a family because families have growing pains and things happen, people fall out of touch. This is where we are. But it was amazing, like the way that it starts and just finding out Coventina's like journey and finding out how she did everything that she did, why she did what she did. It was just amazing. The book ended well. So I actually watched the show as well. I'm not sure if I finished the show. I started watching the show on Hulu. I think it's on Hulu. I don't think I finished the show, but it was very, very similar to the book. I think that the show was just giving a little too much, just like I felt like the book was. Like, it was kind of like just too much information sometimes, where you just felt like, is this boring? But no, it's still an interesting story. But yeah, I was just on the fence with how I felt about those places in the book where I felt like, we didn't really need that. So I would give the book like a 4 or like a 4.5. I really want to give it a 5, but like I said, it's a little boring. But yeah, so Black Cake was awesome. I really did like it. I enjoyed it. It was also fast paced, and I liked all the messages that came along with it. It was a really good, nice ending, bittersweet ending, but it was like a happy ending. I liked it. And I would suggest for many people to read it just so that you can learn about another culture and just like people embracing newness and learning things about people that you just never knew. Black Cake. So the next book on my list is A Mercy by Toni Morrison. This was a pretty short book. I read this book in like a week, and wow. One thing about Toni Morrison is that she is going to tell you an entire story in a paragraph. One sentence is written by this woman, and you feel like, wow, I didn't know that the world was so large from one sentence. So this book really took me through it in these like less than 200 something pages. So this book is following multiple people. There's this farmer. He lives on this farm with his wife. They're both from Europe, and this is like the new America. I believe that this book is taking place in like the late 1600s, and this farm owner did not want to have slaves. He just didn't think that that was something that he wanted to be a part of. But because this other guy that owed him money was just like out of money and he wanted to pay him back, he paid him back with slaves. Let's not even get into it because you already know what it is. But the thing is that these slaves that are on his farm find themselves dealing with really interesting situations that leads the whole farm to just disaster after a while. The slave that he was given at this plantation is a young girl by the name of Florence. And Florence is given away pretty much by her mother because the original slave that he asked for was her mom. And her mom made the decision to say, hey, like, please don't take me, take my daughter. If you need to take anyone back to your plantation or your farm with you, take my daughter. And we come to find out that the reason that she said take her daughter is because the owner was giving her daughter the looks. Her daughter's like 8 years old, and you have this older white man in the 1600s looking at her daughter, and pretty much we all know how it goes. He's probably going to end up, sexually assaulting this girl. So her mother asked for her daughter to be taken away, and that was a mercy. The only good thing that she could see out of the situation, and hopefully this man who doesn't seem like a rapist will take her daughter and her daughter will be safe. But also in the book, there is this connection between this new slave owner's wife and the Native American black mixed servant that's on the plantation, who is like the lead servant. Her name is Lena. They have this weird connection, like they're sisters, but a lot of things happen when the husband passes away, the wife is sick, and she can't really be of help to the wife. So the wife does get better, but she ends up treating Lena like, girl, I don't even need you no more. Like, you couldn't help me in the past, and I realized that we can't be friends. It's crazy how someone can actually own you. You can become friends, but then because you can't really be what they need you to be, they end up leaving you in the dust. It's just too much. It was very emotional, because how can you be friends with someone that you own? And how can you be friends with someone that owns you? I can't even. But there's also this girl named Sorrow, who they find pretty much by water. She was born and raised on a ship. She has an imaginary friend. Pretty much she created imaginary friend because she couldn't deal with life. So we all know, like, a lot of people that deal with trauma sometimes go inward into themselves to actually find some type of solace, some type of peace, some type of like sanity. And that's what Sorrow does. But unfortunately, because Sorrow is so in her own mind, she does everything wrong. They can't depend on her to cook, clean. She has like no true skills because she's so nonchalant, and she just lives her own life, which is very interesting for someone that is enslaved. But Sorrow becomes pregnant multiple times, and I believe that she does have like a bunch of miscarriages. But one time she has this child, and Lena literally like drowns her baby. She thinks that the baby, well, Lena says that the baby was like dead at birth, but Sorrow believes that she drowned her child, and they believe that it's just because they don't have space. They don't have the resources or anything to raise this child, and they believe that Sorrow's going to be a terrible mother. And this is a time where people were taking things into their own hands and just doing horrible things in the name of like peace, in the name of like better choice. Just what? But a lot of things go on. Florence, the young girl from the other plantation who was giving a mercy, falls in love with like a blacksmith. Craziness happens with that because he's a much older man. He's African, he's free, and she's just so like enamored with him and in love with him that she doesn't realize that he's not feeling that for her. So she becomes a different person out of all of this. And I mean, all of this is happening in this small, short time of this book. And it's very powerful. There are a lot of moments where you're just crying because like, what? And there's a lot of laughs. It's so much going on that it's just amazing that Toni Morrison was able to get all of this into this one book. And it's just a powerful story of like different women and how they all intersect and their lives come together into this big bomb of chaos in the 1600s. But yeah, A Mercy, like 5 stars, hands down. Like, this is Toni Morrison, and she did not disappoint. I can also see this being a movie. Like, whoa. So I have like a whole nother stack of books that I was going to implement into this video, but I didn't realize that I was going to talk so much about these other books that I knew were going to just send me down this road of blah, 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 blah. I will make another video of all of the books that I currently have to the side, my little book haul, and my currently reads. I'm reading 2 books right now that I really want to let you guys know about. But we're going to have to do a whole nother video about that because we're not going to be doing these hour-long videos. That's just not fair. I mean, I know you guys love to hear me talk. I love to hear me talk, but everything in moderation, right? Okay, so look out for the part 2 of this video where I just come back and talk about all of the other books that I am currently indulging in at this time. I do want to say thank you guys for tuning in this time, and before I go, make sure that you go down in the comments and say a little something something. Also tap that subscribe button, hit the like button. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.